The engine and transmission are no longer in the vehicle, which is a good sign, which means I'm getting ready to get down to getting the body off the frame. I kind of breezed through taking off the fenders, taking the engine and trans out. I mean, it's almost rudimentary type stuff. I mean, for what we're going to be doing here. If you've got questions about taking off sheet metal or pulling the engine and trans out, you definitely wouldn't want to try to approach taking the body off the frame, I don't think, until you're comfortable with that. But that was initially what I wanted to get done. I wanted to get the sheet metal off, get the engine and trans out, so I could start my disconnection process from the front on back, make sure I got everything loose from the body and from the frame, and then hopefully this thing's going to come off without a hitch. Speaking of hitches, you can see down in here, let me get this light for you. That is the shift cable down there, which I did not know was caught on the back of the transmission, and I ripped the boot in half pulling it out. And honestly, I don't know how hard or how expensive it's going to be to buy a new shift cable. I was thinking about putting a different shifter in it, but that was going to be way down the road. My money doesn't really give me the opportunity to do that now. But now I got to do something because it's broke. Another little thing that happens on the road to getting your car worked on, getting it done. And my first thing is this steering shaft that connects the body to the frame to this steering gear down here. This has to come off just to be able to get that disconnection from the gear to the body. You got one bolt down here where it goes on the spline, and then you've got a pinch bolt up here that goes in between where the shaft goes into the steering column. So you want to disconnect both of those bolts. You want to make sure you got an idea where this is lined up, because I'm taking this off to paint it and rebuild it if I have to. So I want to make sure I know where it is. Steering wheel inside the vehicle is locked. Just take a good sized screwdriver, pry this off the gear, pops up and back down, and then come up to the other side. And you just want to wiggle this thing until it pops out, and there you go. Here's my second disconnect. There is this rod, which, if I can get this daggone light to stay, this rod right here connects down the transmission along with the shifter cable that goes to the center console shift. This little bad boy hooks in line with it and goes up here to the steering column, and when you shift the gears with your center console, this also moves and it supplies the input for the column in there for when it's in park and when it's not, so you can engage the key. So you want to disconnect this, which I've done. So it's hanging loose. I'm probably going to pull this up and out of the way, hook it on something so it doesn't become an issue or hang up on the frame so I don't break anything else. Second thing we're going to do, along with that, come right around here and down here. This right here, this is the parking brake cable, and it runs down and into the frame down here. Easiest thing to do is to unsnap it from the parking brake inside the vehicle and then pull this out, and then that way, because it snakes down through the frame and everything else is connected to the frame, to the rear end of the parking brake stuff, and all that's coming out together. So if I can just disconnect this one cable line here where it goes in the vehicle from the parking brake inside, then this is also free. So we'll move inside the vehicle and we'll take a look at how to do that. Alright, here is the brake cable assembly from the inside. And as you can see, you've got this cable that comes up and engages in this metal shaft here, and it's got a little ball clamp on the end. If I find the easiest way to do is go ahead and put your parking brake halfway down and use a vice grip and grip it all the way at the bottom of the cable, right where the housing is. And then when you release the parking brake, you've held the cable in place, and now it's loose, and you don't have to fight the cable tension, and you can take this housing, and if I can do this one-handed and show you, It'll pop right out. Voila. So now I've disconnected the brake cable, and below, right here, is it's like a pinch clamp. It's got tangs on the end. You're going to have to snap these closed. You just push it through this housing, and you can slip the cable out through the grommet, and it's outside the vehicle, and then it's on to doing something else. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. For these tags up here, this is probably the easiest way to do it. It saves you from inventing or learning new curse words. You take a small hose clamp, and you clamp around those 3 tangs, not all the way at the bottom, but a little bit up from it. Have a nice vice grip or something on the bottom so you can get a firm grip, and all 3 of those squeeze in enough and you can pull it right out. Put a little pressure down on it, release the hose clamp, pull it right out. It's also going to help you too. There's a rubber grommet where it connects to the firewall on the other side. You probably want to pop that rubber grommet off and push it down out of the way so cable's got plenty of free movement. So anyway,
moving on to the underside of the vehicle, I'm checking for electrical connections and other mechanical connections from the body to the frame so we can make sure that all that stuff is separated. This is the proportioning valve for the brakes. This electrical connector on top needs to be disconnected, and we'll swing over to the other side underneath the body, and this bracket or shield actually is what it is, goes right over top of where the catalytic converter could be. It's like a heat shield, I guess, as the catalytic gets kind of hot. For what I need to do, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this, a couple of 7mm bolts, pop that off, because I think this might be one of the spots I need to prop the body to get it off the frame. And then we'll start moving our way to the back. I got the exhaust out, and I think what I'm going to do is take the transmission cross member right here out of the vehicle as well, just because the way it sits, it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a hindrance to me, and I'd just like to have it out of the way and gone. So that's only 4 bolts, and that's out of there. Then I'll move to the back and start disconnecting the fuel tank, and then start checking to make sure I've got everything loose, and then all I got to do is hit those body mount bolts and start raising her up. Here we go. Alright, transmission cross member is out. That was just 4 15mm bolts. But the speedo cable was actually connected to that mount with a 10mm bolt, so I'd take that loose. And now we move toward the back of the vehicle, just past the axle shaft up here. These are the 3 lines coming from the gas tank, and there's this heat shield, or stone guard shield, I'm not sure exactly why they put it there. That needs to come off. Get my light positioned up here so it doesn't fall and bust me in the skull. There we go. You got 3 10mm nuts. Last one is up here. Once this comes off, you can remove this shield I'm showing here, and there are 3 fuel lines underneath it. Now let me get the shield off real quick. Finally, that little bugger comes out. That reveals our fuel lines. Now, just take a pair of pliers, and you'll pop these 3 little connectors here that are basically squeeze type connectors instead of clamps. And you squeeze them off, wriggle these 3 lines off, and you are basically set. I think I've looked the vehicle over one time, and I cannot find any other connections holding me back from pulling this body off the frame. I'm sure I missed something, because you always do, and whatever I miss, I'll be sure to tell you about, but I think we may have gotten everything. So, next move is to get these 3 lines off, and then start figuring out how I'm going to get this body up off the frame. That could be a little fun.